Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, I don't need another project in the shop, but I got one. This is a little project that I'm getting ready to start on for Leo over at Samson Boat Company, who is a YouTuber. He's got a great YouTube channel. They are restoring a classic sailing yacht, a wooden boat, ship, whatever you want to call it. I think it was made in 1911. He got that boat and basically is rebuilding it from the ground up. It's been an amazing project. I've actually enjoyed watching his channel, which I enjoy all kinds of, anything that has to do with the old arts and crafts, the people that specialize in the trades of old, while I kind of specialize in machinist and metalworking and stuff like that. I really like the woodworking stuff as well. And building a wooden boat is something that has always amazed me, the talent that goes in that. And I've really enjoyed that series. This is actually the capstan that goes on Leo's boat on the Tally Ho, which, like I said, they're in the process of restoring. And this is the original capstan to that boat. And it's in need of some TLC. Now, the story on this is that he had shipped it down to Florida to a company that was going to restore it. And I think that they realized pretty quickly that they were kind of in over their heads. They really weren't set up to do restoration work like this. Amazing company, does amazing work. Don't get me wrong, but it's really more high-tech stuff than it is restoring antique stuff like what I tend to do more of. They did reach out to me. I actually went down there and looked at it with them back probably last fall, I think it was, and tried to give them some advice on it. Ultimately, the decision was made they were going to send it up to my shop and see if I can get this thing taken apart and restored. Their big thing was they couldn't get it apart. And I'm concerned, honestly, as to how much trouble this thing is going to be taken apart. This thing is over 100 years old. It's been sitting. It was sitting out in the weather for years before the Samson Boat Company guys got a hold of it and started to restore it. It's frozen up. It's been in a saltwater environment. It's mostly cast iron, I believe. It's got some steel stuff in here as well. But our task is to see if we can get this thing, number one, taken apart. There are some obvious repairs that need to be made to it. There's actually broken casting on this that we're going to see about either repairing or replacing. Haven't decided yet. Probably we'll make that decision once we get it taken apart. And who knows what else we'll get into once we get into this thing. Hopefully we're not going to break anything while we're taking it apart. But that's what we're going to be working on today, is seeing if we can get this thing disassembled. So first thing I want to do is get this thing sitting up straight. So I got the gantry over here, and we're just going to kind of see if we can get her pointing upwards in the position this thing's really designed to operate in. All right. So let's take a little closer look at this now that we got it kind of in its upright position. We can kind of see how this thing works and does. First off, there were some little brass plates that went over these places here where you crank on this at. These were taken off previously. I've got a bag over here with the hardware in it. Also, the guys who were working on this previously had made this little key to go up in here they could try to crank on, although they were never able to get it to spin. So basically the way this works is you got these coming in. There's one on each side. I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that these stay stationary with the base. And when you crank on this, there's a bevel gear on the inside of this that tracks onto this drum, and then that will spin the drum up underneath it. And you would have probably had some type of big hand crank on here that you cranked to spin this thing. Like I said, there was one on either side. So you really could have had two people cranking on this at one time. Probably had a pretty long handle on it to give you plenty of leverage. Now, I will show you, well, before we get to that, let's see down here on the bottom, you got these little dogs, and this is like a ratchet. So depending on the direction you're spinning, it would allow it to move up to the next one, but it wouldn't go backwards. So it was just something to keep it from going backwards. There's a dog on either side. There's also this little lever. There's one of those on either side that looks like brass, and it looks like it's been broken off. I'm not exactly sure what that does. Probably has something to do with the direction that you're spinning it, but yeah, I just don't know right now. It's all frozen up. One of the issues that we know we've got with this is this cover has got a broken chunk out of it. It was that way, I think, when Leo got it. This is an old brake. It's been there for a long time. You can see the rack up underneath the bottom in here that goes down to the drum that turns. Fortunately, where it's at, this is not anything that's structurally important to this. I don't know what happened. I don't know the story. I imagine that something bumped into it, or this thing fell over at some time and it just knocked a chunk out of it. I don't know yet what the game plan is. We are going to fix this. There's two options that I'm looking at, and I'm kind of waiting to get it taken apart to figure out exactly what we want to do. The first option is that I make a pattern for a blank to fit up in here, and we just braze a new piece in there. Easiest way to fix it. It'll be cosmetically repaired. Again, nothing structural here at all, so you know, it's not like it's going to be a problem breaking again down the road unless someone knocks it out again. Other option is that we make a whole new cap piece for this, which would require a fairly complicated pattern to be made, sending this to the foundry and having it cast. There's a nut up here on the top that kind of holds all this together, and they were able to get that off, but they were not able to get the rest of this off. And I think the big challenge today is going to be getting this cap off of this thing, and I need to figure out exactly what we're going to do. So I'm looking at this. There's a couple of holes drilled in here. These are probably for lubricating oil holes. I'm guessing they're right over the shafts that come in here, and they're just a little bit too small for a 5/16 inch bolt to go down into. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to tap these, or drill them out just a little bit and tap them for a bolt to go into. And I've got this little puller here that I can put on here and just drop a couple of bolts down in there. And hopefully that'll give me some lifting right here in the hub. This is going to be the strongest place to pull from. And hopefully that'll give me a little bit of leverage to kind of pop this thing off. We'll put some heat in there and then try to pop it off. That's my game plan. So I am just going to drill those out a little bit oversized from what they are right now. And that's pretty close to where they are right now. We're going to run a tap down through there. Okay, tap wrench here. See if we can thread those holes. All right, I think I'm going to take a bottoming tap and run in these just so I can get those threads down as deep in there as possible. That's just a regular taper tap. A bottom tap will get threads all the way to the bottom, and that'll give me the most gripping power. So bottoming tap has threads all the way to the bottom. You need to tap it first with a regular tapered tap, but then you can run this down in there and it'll just cut those threads in the bottom all the way to the bottom. And again, you can get a bolt to go a little bit deeper. This is very handy when going into a blind hole. We're all the way in the bottom there. We'll do both sides, and I don't think I've got some bolts the right length. I'm gonna probably have to run to town and get some, but after that we will come back and put some heat on this and see if we can get lucky and not have to fight it too hard. All right, I got my puller set up on here. We got the bolts going down into those holes, and we just put a wrench on this, and hopefully that'll just pick this whole hub up. But before I do, I am going to put a good bit of heat in this. This thing is really stuck on here, and the idea here with the heat is we try to heat up this cast iron on the outside. The cast iron will hopefully expand just a little bit, open up a little bit of a gap, and that will in theory, help us break this thing apart. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get the torch out, put some heat in there, and start cranking on that puller and see if we can get this thing separated. Start applying heat. Got a good bit of heat in this. Put a little pressure on it. Not wanting to break loose. Take a lead hammer here and put a little shock on it. Nothing too crazy. I had to bring in reinforcements.
It's bad when you have to call me to help.
Clark drove all the way from Mississippi to Georgia because I couldn't get this thing apart the other day. It kind of went downhill on me. I quit filming, but I was never successful in getting this thing apart. We got a lot of heat in there, and this thing is being super, 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 super stubborn. And I have really examined it. I still think it just comes off the top, but we're going to have to put a little bit more. We're going to turn up the heat a little bit more and put a little more pressure on it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to come off one way or the other. If that's not the way it's supposed to, we'll find out.
Yeah, and I did talk to Leo, and he's aware of the situation. We also know that we've got a casting that's broken or cracked on the top here. Guys, it's very likely that this cover is going to break. And if it does, I know a foundry guy.
I'm looking at enough tonnage to break it. If it does, something's going to come loose.
Something's coming loose. I'm hoping that we're going to get this apart without breaking it. But if it breaks, it breaks.
Yeah.
And if it does,
yeah, we'll get it.
We'll make a pattern. We'll cast a new part. That was always part of Plan B to begin with. So this is a little homemade pressing rig that I built a couple of years ago, a little portable hydraulic press. I've kind of had to jury rig it a little bit, but we've got a 30-ton jack in here. This is all dangling from my gantry crane, but we're going to press down on that center screw and we're going to pull up here on the cover and try to break it loose. And hopefully when I say break, I mean break where it's supposed to break and not where it's not supposed to break, where it's already broken. So
from the looks of this current setup, you're applying about 10 times more pressure per that area than I could with my iron crusher. So I'm interested to see what happens.
Something's going to give.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that we're going to have a broken cover before we're done, but I just don't know what else to do. So I'm going to start by putting a little bit of pressure on this. We're probably going to apply some heat to it. And like I said, something's coming apart. And hopefully it's the way it's supposed to be. Here we go. We're pressing down on that.
Actually, we probably ought to pick this up a little more.
All right. Well,
something's getting. There you go. You think we ought to tap on that just a little bit?
It ain't gonna hurt it. Yeah, he just broke the Capstan. Yeah. I think we have,
Actually, he don't need that anyway.
nah. All right, let me, I'm gonna shut the camera off and let's figure out what we got going on here. Well, we've come over here and kind of cleaned this up a little bit, vacuumed out all the junk that was in there that was loose. Still, I don't see any clear sign as to how this thing is together. Here's my thought. You've got these two pieces that are in here. Obviously, these are supposed to spin inside of that, and that's what goes on this kind of rack and pinion in this thing. That's what rotates the drum up underneath it. My suspicion is there may be a pin that goes completely through the shaft that's behind these bosses. The problem is these things are stuck. They will not rotate. They will not turn. But now that we've got the cover off of it and out of the way, by means of busting it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces, I'm going to try to take a punch and see if I can drive these out. Can.
Oh, man.
Man, you broke my darn flea market chisel here.
How did I do that? Broke a crowbar yesterday.
It's coming, actually. I mean, it's coming pretty good right now. Just keep on hitting it. Yeah, you got it coming. Keep on going. Yeah, this side over here was going good. Just keep on hitting right there.
Well, I think it's almost
there,
out.
You got it. Look at that.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we can get the other side out. I think you get it this time. Yeah, keep on coming. It's coming now. Got it. Well, guys, I looked. There is no pin that goes through this. It looks like the back of this hole is just going right up against the shaft that's in there. So we've got another puller on this thing, and we're going to get the torch out and we're going to heat it up. We have to, we'll turn it red, and we're just going to see if we can get it off. That's all I know to do now. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that tell me how we should have done it in the comments. All right. Little fire, little heat. I put a lot of penetrating oil in there, so probably going to burn all that off. Is it? Yeah, it's loosened up. Put your... I think it's coming. It is.
Chinese and held up to it after all.
Yeah, that's going to be hot as a firecracker.
Yeah.
See if you can... Yeah, we're coming up.
Where's your pliers?
Look at there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to call that success. Wasn't the ideal way of having to deal with it, but we got it apart. It's in pieces, but we got it apart. Wow, that was on there tight. We got a taper. It is keyed. You got the 2 keys on either side. You know, I was wondering, I could see the slots where those keys fit down in there, but I couldn't really figure out what they were for. It's very obvious now that that was keyed in place that way. Interesting how they did that. This thing is still hot, but we took that rack off. There were just 4 nuts that were on these studs, and looks like they may have used some lead to kind of bed it in place. Just see the remains of the lead in there. But right now what I'm looking at is there's this key right here. I don't want to touch it because it's hot, but I can see a little slot here on the side. I'm pretty sure that what this key is this actually slides in all the way through this. And if you look, we got a tapered hub, which is why that thing was so stuck. It's been on there for 110 years. I can't remember how old the tally-ho is, but a long time. But it was really, really stuck. And again, the power of a taper. We talk about tapers. I've got tapered bandsaw hubs over here that I'm dealing with right now. I've got tapers that we run into on old machines all the time, tapered pins. It's a really good way of putting something together. Makes it difficult to get it apart sometimes, but it really holds well. But I think what we're going to try to do is knock this key out. And hopefully when we do, that will allow this shaft to either drop through or come up, I'm not sure which, and help us to further take this thing apart. I see a crack over here getting a little bit bigger. Yeah, it's not moved yet. Yeah, that's what I was running into a minute ago. Well, guys, this is proven to be challenging. So we let this cool down overnight. Basically, ran out of gas. So we stopped last night, and man, this thing is stuck. This is frustrating. I don't know what else to do, except I went and got my gas refilled this morning, my bottles refilled. So we're going to put heat on it again and bang on it some more and just see if we can get it to break loose. It's just being super, super stubborn.
Hey, Keith, can you put just a little more heat right here, just on this nose? You think that'll...
I don't think it's going to matter. It just dropped out.
All right.
to give up.
Yeah.
You just don't ever know.
Nope.
Just don't ever know.
Dollar, you brought us good luck.
All right. So I think we are making good progress now. We got one more thing to come out. There's this bar that goes all the way down through this. And right here at the top, there's this ring. This is a brass ring. It's a bearing surface that this whole drum is supposed to rotate on that shaft. There's a similar brass piece in the bottom. And it's obvious that this goes out in this direction. We got this key in here. We need to get that out and then press this out. We basically got steel on brass. It was supposed to have rotated at one time. If we can get this key out, we're going to see if we can push or drive the whole shaft out. And I think once we do that, we will have this thing taken apart. So that's what we're going to work on. Let's see if we can get that key out again. We've worked on that, tried that the other day, and was unsuccessful, but we're going to try it again. So guys, we have been beating on this with literally a sledgehammer and a piece of brass, and I got it just about to where now we're going to get in here with a punch and see if we can punch this thing out. It took a lot to get that thing to move, but it's moving now. So let's see if we can get it on out. Get it on the square part.
Yeah, one of us aren't right here.
Yeah, I'm just saying grip it on the square part.
That's what I had.
Okay.
It's not.
Doesn't mean anything.
Not helping us much. Get it on. Yeah, top and bottom, top and bottom. There you go.
Hit on the top. Yeah, keep on hitting on top. Yeah, I think you've got it going now. It's almost out. Boom. So we are out here at the museum. I got this loaded up in the hydraulic press. It is moving. So that's good. It took a little pressure to kind of get it started, but it is coming on out. 20-ton press here. And probably the easiest thing we've done the whole time.
Yep.
But you got brass on steel there. I will mention, guys, that I am on the lookout for a big hydraulic press to go in my shop. This is one I built several years ago out here at the museum, and it's just inconvenient for me to have to come in out here every time I need to use press. And I'd really like to find something 50, 75 ton range. Anybody knows of a good hydraulic press that's for sale, I'd be interested in talking to them. So anyway, I'll just put that out there. I've been keeping an eye on local Facebook marketplace and you name it, but so far I haven't found what I'm looking for. All right, we're about to the end of our cycle. I'm going to put a push rod in there and make another pass. So just coming out good. So here we go, guys. We got all the parts disassembled. This was challenging. This was probably the most complicated, not complicated, but most difficult part I've ever had to take apart in my life. It fought me the whole way. I really want to thank Clark Easterling from Windy Hill Foundry, who kind of showed up to come visit me, and I put him to work out here, but he really was instrumental in helping me get this done because it turned into a two-man job. And he really helped out a lot in that standpoint. I'm not sure I would have gotten it apart if it hadn't been for his help. But we did get it apart. Like we said, the cap up there is in more parts than we started with. It's a problem, but you know, we kind of anticipated that was going to be a problem. Talked with Clark again. He's my foundry guy. He's the guy that does castings for me at Windy Hill Foundry. He says he can pour that part no problem. We are going to have to make a pattern for it, so I'm going to have to figure out that process. Got got a couple different options on how I can go about doing that. I may enlist some help with it. I've got some guys that I can contact. We'll see about that. Other than that, I think everything else is in salvageable condition. The one question mark is the steel shaft that runs up and down. There's a lot of corrosion on the inside of that. I need to get it cleaned up. I'm probably just put it in my evapo-rust tank and let it soak and get it cleaned up. Worst case, we may have to make a new steel shaft to go in there because of the amount of corrosion on it. But again, that's not a problem. We can make that over on the lathe without any huge problem. The other pieces and parts, I will probably send off and have sandblasted, cleaned up real good. I need to talk with Leo on how he wants to put coatings on this, whether he wants them just primed, let them paint them, or whether he wants me to get them powder coated. We got options there, so we'll figure out that as well. But everything's apart and everything appears to be in decent condition, actually better condition than I was anticipating, as much trouble as this thing was to take apart. So anyway, glad you guys got to go along for the journey. You can see the little highlights along the way. Still a lot of work to do on this project, but this is probably the toughest part of the whole thing, was just getting it apart. And we got that accomplished. So there you go. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted. And as always, too, a big, huge thank you to the subscribers of the channel, or the supporters of the channel, rather. Subscribers too, but the supporters who support through Patreon and PayPal, etc. Without your little bit of extra funding, it'd be really difficult for me to take on projects like this and take the time to shoot video and everything else that we get to do with you. So there you go. Hopefully we'll have this back on the tally-ho before too long, where they can use it. So there you go, guys. We'll catch you on the next video again. Thanks for watching.